Hello, Embody fam. Today I'm coming on here to have hopefully a quick but short, a quick, short, casual conversation to talk about a topic that some people have messaged me at various points throughout the years when they come across my content or come across my channel. And I think that maybe something that can provide some resonance or connection could be helpful when it comes to this topic. So, this is about what it feels like from my observations, and then also with working with other people and also having close friends who have been through this as well, what it feels like to go through a spiritual awakening, or what we call a spiritual awakening. When this happened to me, I did not have anyone in my life that was spiritual. I had nobody in my life that knew astrology. I knew nobody that read tarot, who was a psychic, a medium, a channel. It was foreign to me. And I had been to a tarot reader a few times in my earlier 20s, and I remember always wishing I had her psychic abilities and had the potential to be psychic and tell fortunes or tell the future. I like idolized my tarot reader, right? But I also hated that she always would try to sell me this candle magic ritual for 500 bucks, right? So back in the like early 2000s, yeah, you could get away with that. But now I think more people, well, I don't know about that, but more people have awoken to the fact that you don't need to pay somebody to do those things, okay? You should pay somebody perhaps to teach you, like a mentor or a coach that you trust to teach you, but ultimately you should be working with people, whatever, it doesn't matter, that can teach you those skills, right? So, because we all can read tarot. We can all be psychic. We can all be a medium. We can all be a channel, right? And I know this because I am a trained channel and a trained medium, obviously a evolutionary and predictive astrologer, a tarot reader, and I have had coaches who later on after my awakening taught me how to do these things, which is what I do with my clients now. So again, complete brand newbie, and it's really hard to pinpoint like an exact day when the internal reckoning began. But I can say that it started to happen around a series of events where my own actions were detouring. They were detouring me off my path, and I felt like I was always meant for something. I felt like I was meant to be put out in the public eye for some reason. I felt I was meant to help people and express my creativity. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a singer and a model, and I made other choices in life to get into sports and so forth. And yeah, so there was just kind of and then when I was in the military, I had an interest then in Buddhism, but I was super picked on during boot camp in the military. So when it came to Sundays to go to a religious service, I would just stay in the barracks and try to find a place to sleep instead of going to a service because I didn't want to go to a Catholic service or a Christian service. I really wanted to go to the Buddhist service, but if I was going to say that on a Sunday in boot camp, they were gonna send me into more hell than they already were, right? So anyway, all right, there is inklings, right? So I think that there are often small callings that you have throughout your life, but you can kind of dismiss them if you're not looking for them, right? If you're not looking or your eyes aren't open, especially if your third eye isn't open. But eventually, I believe the soul brings you to a point where things are happening in your life that you have no choice but to awaken and open up and start to learn certain things about spirituality or the universal laws or quantum mechanics, quantum physics, or astrology or something esoteric, or even what's your soul purpose, or what is the meaning behind death? There's so many things we can explore about the universe, and ultimately it all leads back to the same stuff. So when my awakening began, I would heavily say that a good portion of it was when I decided to cut out alcohol and I stopped drinking. And I became very focused on cleansing my body. And I would get just pulls and downloads to listen to meditations to try to calm my anxiety, which is something that somebody who is um, quitting drinking will go through. Their body's going to go through a lot of stuff. You're going to go through sugar cravings. You're going to go through anxiety, really bad sleep for a while. So and I was so always anti-medication, which that's okay. Like if somebody wants medication in their life, like that's your prerogative. But I was just always against that kind of stuff. So anxiety meds and so forth. So I ended up having a calling to get into just cleansing myself. So it was meditations. I believe that's what started. And Abraham Hicks, her videos came across YouTube. And I got really deep into listening to her positive, motivational, also kind of in a way meditative frequencies that she was channeling. And so that's kind of what opened me up to like the universe and manifesting and the laws of, attraction and abundance. And so I started buying books and things started trickling in. And then I got into herbal teas and herbal medicine, and I was like turning into a witch, if you will, right? And it just started downloading all this more information through YouTube and books, and going into local metaphysical shops and quite literally moving into this witchy lifestyle. I still create altars, but I was super into my altars, very like rigid. I had an altar for every new moon and full moon of every month. Mind you, I knew nothing about astrology at this time. And I would make dream satchels and I got into baking and I would use different herbs because different herbs have different energetic properties. So you can use them for different manifestations. And I still do that with my baking. I have a Cancer moon. So, it was like right in alignment with me to manifest and do these rituals with herbs, baking. Um, then I got into candle magic and certain deities started calling me. The first one was Hecate, and Hecate comes to you when you're at a crossroads in life. And she is a protector as well. And she comes with dogs and snakes. And I used to go literally into the street where there was four corners and leave a plate of food out there for her. I mean, I I went in and I felt like it was working. That's the thing. I felt like it was working and it was helping me on so many levels. And I got really into journaling. And before I got on this video, I was like, I'm going to read through my journals, but like I have tons of these, right? And I got deep into journaling and the moon cycles and so forth. And again, I had no idea about astrology. So what ended up happening was I was so high vibe on all of these things that were making me feel empowered and making me learn more about myself and helping me navigate my nervous system and making me feel more powerful and more enriched in life. And I was literally manifesting things on top of that because of my energy was shifting, that a lot of things in my outside world were also shifting because of my inner world was shifting. So what happened for me in some cases was some of my friends thought I was crazy. And I am friends with most of the people now, but there are a lot of people that I am not anymore. And there's no animosity or nothing like that. It's just that I didn't align anymore with bar culture or drinking culture or gossip or low vibrational kind of things that, younger me, 20s me and stuff just didn't, I was never mean. I was never a gossip or anything like that, but that was like always in the circle, right? Or, you can imagine the things that come into like 3 a.m. mornings, like downtown Providence, like going out and drinking and stuff, right? So these things, just like my energy was shifting. So my friends were either changing with me because they were on board and they thought all this stuff was cool too, and they wanted to learn too, and they wanted to feel better too. But then there was also a group of friends that were kind of like, oh, she's going through this weird thing. And we were just getting disconnected. So one of the things that I had wrote down was you can feel really alone. And this specifically really happened long term with my partner that I had at the time. I was engaged at the time. And he was that type of person that came from the old group of friends, and he wasn't like a not a woke person, but I began to accelerate even more. And so, what happens, I think, is sometimes you change so much when you're going through a spiritual awakening that the person that your friends or your partner, your lover met you at, you don't become that person anymore. And sometimes you accelerate like a rocket, and the people around you have to accept you or grow with you, or you'll grow outside, you'll grow apart, because you'll have different values and you'll have different perspectives, and overall conversation changes. Conversation on the table does not stay the same. You won't be ignited by the same things you used to talk about. Like you won't even resonate. You won't even know what to say anymore because you won't even be in that realm or in that perspective anymore. It will quite leave you speechless. Like you have no input because you won't. You change, you shift everything, your perspective, your thoughts, your opinions, right, begin to all transform. So a spiritual awakening can really be quite lonely because at one point you can get so isolated into the new person that feels right and feels truthful for you. And some people quit then, or they shy away, or they retract, or they fold into themselves because they're afraid of judgment or afraid of losing what they have or afraid of being exposed or being a fool or being made fun of or all those things, right? And if you ever do find yourself, if you're watching this and you're trying to learn more, and you're in that place, like I encourage you to just keep becoming the person and the version that you want to be, because I promise you there is so many new friends and lovers and people to meet that are going to fulfill your life in new and higher vibrational ways than you never expected and never thought. And on top of that, you're going to feel so much fuller inside because you choose the new path for yourself, the new version of yourself and the upgraded version of yourself, right? So it can kind of be disorienting at times too, because what also happens is you start to get deconditioned, right? So let me backtrack a little bit. So, what also might come in is you begin to want to know esoteric knowledge. That could be divination tools, ritual tools, spells, magic, pagan religion, um, astrology, of course, tarot, human design. Human design is a little bit more modern, right? But I fell into astrology, and astrology is like the most ancient esoteric knowledge. It goes all the way back to Mesopotamian times. It is one of the first ways that our ancient ancestors began to live life, began to understand how to procreate, when to procreate, how to use the cycles of the seasons and the moon and the sun for agriculture and food and survival. And like that's basically how astrology birthed itself, right? I'll do an episode one day on the history of astrology because it's insane how it goes through all of the centuries. So you begin to want to immerse yourself in some type of esoteric knowledge, whatever is called to you. Maybe that's mediumship, maybe that's psychic abilities, channeling. Like what tarot is a great gateway for people to begin to open up to intuition and listening to intuition and themselves and learn what psychic abilities can really be. So usually somebody is called into that. Like I was called into astrology and tarot. Those are my first two after the magic and the deities and so forth. And when you start to now use a tool like that on top of your perspective and perception shifting, life can become a little bit disorienting because you are now starting to decondition your mind and soul and emotional body from the things that you were taught growing up, or most of us. I mean, some of you might have had like really spiritual parents and they taught you these tools or whatever. I did not have that. I had a family that was, hey, like whatever you want to believe in, like we believe in a higher thing and we also believe in the afterlife, right? So I had that, which was great. I had that opening. But I also had to decondition myself from being weird, being a witch, believing in astrology, uh, trusting in energy, something that people couldn't understand, manifesting. Oh, you can just manifest. It's like, yes, you could. It's like, how many times do we need to prove it to you? It's like, so life can get and I laugh now, but like the point of this video is that it's painful. Like spiritual awakenings are painful because you're feeling alone at times, you're feeling isolated at times, and you're feeling fucking disoriented from who you used to be and who you were in the world and your life and who you're becoming or who you truly are now. And that's why your relationships and your friendships and even your career can change. You can have an epiphany. Your job can change. You can have an epiphany. You can be like, I don't belong in this country. I don't belong in this state. I don't belong in this family. Like I never wanted to be a mom. Like you can have some crazy stuff happen, right? Some crazy stuff. And then once you're confronted with the truth, capital T of your own truth, not somebody else's, your own truth, then you're now like, I have to live my life according to that, or I'm committing self-betrayal, which becomes even more harmful and disempowering to the person, to the individual. So it becomes this really painful process for a long time. And I want to tell you, if you're listening and you're going through this, like, be soft and be graceful with yourself because you're having an eruption in your soul and your psyche. And it's so crazy and it's so amazing that you get to this point because one thing that we know from evolutionary astrology is that there are different levels of consciousness, and most people will never even stumble upon this video and get to this point. Many people remain sheep because their soul is not ready to handle the whole truth. Maybe in a few lifetimes, but they have to live a few lifetimes of with their head down, closed. I mean, it's matrix level, like being a sheep and not being awake. Now, because of the society that we live in and AI and computer and the web and so forth, I mean, stuff that I like, we did not have this when I was in high school. But it started to roll out, after that. It's wild. Like we have this access to our fingertips for more people to awaken. And because more people now can awaken and get this knowledge and have more conversations, because many, many, many moons ago, esoteric knowledge, astrology, tarot, all those were forbidden at like certain points in civilizations. You were executed if you were to practice any of these things, or if you were to awaken to the truth of the universe, that you are literally God and goddess within you. There is no one creator. Like we are all a part of that creator. And so we are so powerful as energetic beings that we can manifest anything with our life and we can do anything with our life, but a part of it is we have to be in co-creation with that. And so that is a lot of responsibility to understand. So there's the heaviness of the awakening that comes in with responsibility for yourself, and then another layer of the painfulness is taking responsibility and accepting and going through the grieving process of the things you did when you were not awake. Maybe the people that you were hurting or you hurt yourself or the choices that you made that you kind of regret, and it's very easy to get trapped up in that circle and that cycle over and over and ruminate and lose focus of the awakening journey itself, So just love yourself for every moment and every part that you were in life with the information that you had. You did what you could with the information you had then. But the more awake you become, the more spiritual awake you become, the more responsibility you have, right? Because you know better. So it's tougher. Life after the spiritual waking, after you go through the pain process and the isolation process, and you begin to find your partners that can support you, and the friendships and the communities and the knowledge that can support you, and the tools that can help you cope, right? Then you're dealing with the responsibility side of your choices, and life gets a little bit more heavier because you are holding a container for a lot more to see. And I do have a chakra course that is coming out. Chakra training has changed my life. My teacher passed away last year. So in honor of him who taught me this, I am recreating what he taught me as an extension and a gift for him, from him to you through me. So if you have interest, by the way, in this, please comment down below chakra, and I'll make sure to get the information over to you. But you are holding a container of more information and more knowledge, and you're seeing things through your third eye. Your perception is cracked open at certain points. And so there can be a lot more heaviness, and you can feel more empathy and compassion and the suffering, and you can be more aware to a lot of those things too. So some of us who are called through spiritual awakenings choose to be healers and choose to be agents of change, and I like to call us spiritual warriors after these awakenings, and utilize whatever gifts that we feel to try and transmute and change the energy of those around us. But not everybody has to answer to a calling to create a YouTube channel or create a spiritual business, become an astrologer or a wellness coach or a tarot reader. Like, you can literally make the change just as impactful as just consciously and continuously improving the energy in your life, which is of course going to cause a ripple effect on those around you and creates the effect we exactly need, right? So there can be that there. So the aftermath is freedom and liberation, and my favorite, I think, empowerment after a spiritual awakening. But the whole process itself, when you're in it, is painful and lonely and agonizing and disorienting and disenfranchising at times, and not fun. People think like you have a spiritual awakening and you're like, I'm at a yoga retreat in Costa Rica and having the best time of my life. And it's just not the case. Like, sometimes you're on your living room floor, like crying, journaling, and releasing, and just like exhausted. You can be tired. You can need a lot more sleep because your body is processing things. And by the way, when you take a nap or you feel tired, it is a sign that like you've held on too much energy, for a few hours and your body just needs to process it. So I always encourage my clients, take the nap if you can, take the nap, even if it's a 15-minute nap, because soul is processing things that needs to happen in the unconscious, okay, in the unconscious realm, and you'll feel a lot better. But anyway, so my hats off to you humans who are in this part of your journey or in this part of your life, or you're coming out of it, or you're going in, or maybe you have a friend who needs to hear this message because they're going through it and you don't really know how to explain it. And it's just a way to like connect that you're not alone. And if you're feeling down or things hurt, and they're sad and you're grieving and you're going through grief and all these negative emotions that can come up, and shame and guilt and so forth, that is a part of the purging process, and you're alchemically transmuting your and transforming your soul and your psyche, and sometimes quite physically your body, depending on how you're choosing to go along with your spiritual awakening. Somebody who's training heavy for something, or just um, on a weight loss journey or muscle gain journey, or training as an athlete, or go climbing Mount Everest, or these can be also times when that awakening is erupted, because you're funneling the energy through your physical vessel as well, right? And that can also be physically painful, as well as emotionally and mentally and psychologically painful and purifying ultimately. Okay. But I would never go back, because the liberation and the empowerment and the unwavering self-knowledge that I have ended up with and continue to deepen with has been and always will be worth all of the sacrifices that were made during my spiritual awakening. So I hope this helps you. If it did, comment chakra down below if you want the course. Give me a like button, make sure you subscribe, and let me know if you'd also like me to teach you astrology. I find it the best esoteric knowledge I have come across yet. So I love you guys. You are a great fam to be in my life. So have a great weekend.